This is a recording for the 12th of March, 2022. The parsha this week is Vaykira. It also is Shabbat, Zachor, the Sabbath before Purim. You have the Sidur, Sim Shalom for Shabbat. We're on page 61, first line. Moda ani lefanecha, melechai v'kayam. Shechazarta binishmati bechemla Rabba emunatecha. I'm grateful to you, living, enduring sovereign, for restoring my soul to me in compassion. You are faithful beyond measure. On please page 65, Birkot HaShachar, blessings of the morning, awareness of all the things we're able to do as we function in the day. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher natan l'sech v'vina l'avchim ben yom u'ben laila. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam shasani b'tzomo. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam shasani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam Shasani ben Chorin, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam pokeach ivrim, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam malbish harumim, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam atir asurim, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam zokef kifufim, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam rokah haaretz al hamayim, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam shasali kol tzorki, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam hamechin mitzadei gaver. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam ozei Yisrael b'gvura. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam oter Yisrael b'tifara. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam hanotein layayif kawach. Baruch atah Adonai melech olam hamvir shina meinai. U'teneh v'chol yom l'cheinu l'chesed u'rachamim. B'nech b'nei korin v'tim leinu chasadim tovim baruch atah Adonai. Gomel chasadim tovim li'amo Yisrael. Next will be page 72. We'll go to the English side of Psalm for Shabbat. Last three stanzas on page 72. But me you have greatly exalted. I am anointed with fragrant oil. I've seen the downfall of my foes. I've heard the despair of my attackers. The righteous shall flourish like the palm tree. They shall grow tall like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Adonai, they will thrive in the courts of our God. They shall bear fruit even in old age. They shall be ever fresh and fragrant to proclaim, Adonai is just, my rock in whom there is no flaw. Od yinevum b'seva deshenim v'adanim yu. Lagit ki yashar Adonai, Suri v'lo avla tabo. On to page 81. We'll take two lines out of Psalm 30 in the Hebrew. 2, 4, 6, 8 lines from the bottom. Elech Adonai ekra, to the Lord will I call. And then 4 lines below that, the one above the box. Shema Adonai v'chaneni, hear me, God, and be gracious to me. Elecha Adonai ekra, ve'el Adonai etchanan. Elecha Adonai ekra, ve'el Adonai etchanan. Shema Adonai v'chaneni, Adonai heye ozer li. Shema Adonai v'chaneni, Adonai heye ozer li. Hafachta mispedi lamachali pitach sakiva te'azreni simcha, leman yizamer chechavod v'lo yidom. Adonai Elohai le'olam odeka. Skipping Kaddish, since we don't have a visible minion, we go to page 83 for Baruch Shamar. God created the universe by his word. Baruch Shamar v'yaholam Baruch Hu, Baruch Oseh Bereshit, Baruch Omer v'yoseh, Baruch Gozer Mekayim, Baruch Merachem al haaretz, Baruch Merachem al habriot, Baruch Mishalem, Sachar Tov l'Reyav, Baruch Harlad v'Kayam lanetzach, Baruch Podeu Matzil, Baruch Shemo. Yachid Chayolami Melech Meshubachum Faradei Ad Shemo Hagadol, Baruch Ata Adonai, Melech Mulal Batish Bachot. Page 88. We'll do the last 4 stanzas of Psalm 34 in the English. Page 88. Last 5 stanzas, excuse me. Adonai's face is set against evildoers to erase all memory of them from the earth. When the righteous cry out, Adonai listens and sets them free from all their troubles. Adonai is close to the brokenhearted, helps those who are crushed in spirit. Many are the troubles of the righteous. With Adonai's help, they are overcome. God protects every limb, not one is broken. Misfortune destroys the wicked, and those who hate the righteous are doomed. Adonai redeems the life of God's servants. None who take refuge in God will be forsaken. On skipping to page 96, we're ready for Ashrei, Psalm 145, praising God with the letters of the alphabet, 96 and 97. Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha Yalucha Selah. Excuse me for my dog. The mail just came. Tehilat Adonai yedaber pi v'varech kol basar shem kodsho le'olam va'ed v'anachnu nevarech Yah me'ata v'ad olam. Hallelujah. Show this once or twice before. We're going to go to the Sabbath prayer from Fiddler on the Roof with the Children's Choir from Los Angeles.
May the Lord protect and defend you. May he always shield you from shame. May you come to be in Israel a shining name. May you be like Ruth and like Esther.
Back into the Siddur, page 100, 7 lines from the bottom by the box, the end of Psalm 150, page 100, close to the bottom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, v'tzilat tzalei shama. Hallelujah, hallelujah, v'tzilat tzalei trua. Kol haneshama tehallel. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Kol haneshama tehallel. Hallelujah, hallelujah. We're on to page 105, middle of the page. On Shabbat, as it says in the middle, the Chazan begins with Shochen ad marom v'kadosh shemo v'chatuv ranenu tzadikim baranoi la'esharim navatila v'fisharim titalal uv'divrei tzadikim titbarach uv'ilshon chasidim titromam uv'kerev kedoshim titkadash uv'makalot revivot Amacha Beit Yisrael. Let's read this bottom of 105 in the English. Among assembled throngs of the house of Israel, your name shall be glorified in song, our sovereign in every generation. For it is the duty of all creatures, Adonai our God, and God of our ancestors, to acclaim, laud, and glorify you, extolling, exalting, to add our own praise to the songs of David, your anointed servant. 106. Yishtabach Shimcha Lad Malakenu. Verachot Vodo Me'ata V'Ad Olam Baruch Ata Adonai El Melech Gadol Batishbachot El HaHodot Adon Haniflod Haboche B'Shirei Zimra Melech El Olamim. Lacking visible quorum, we'll skip half Kaddish and Baruch Hu. We're on line 3 on 107. Baruch atah melech olam, yotzer or uvorei choshech, oseh shalom, uvorei et hakol. Hakol yoducha v'kol yishabechucha, v'kol yomru ein kadosh kadonai. Parav 107. Epes biltecha galenu limot hamashiach v'ein domeh lecha moshi'enu l'tchiyat hametim. We're on 108 for El Adon, Hebrew or transliteration. Creation reflects the rule, the glory of God, and we shall do it with one of the melodies I used to use in Israel a long time ago. El Adon al kol hamasim baruch u'baruch v'fi kol neshama godlo v'tuva Malei olam da'atu tvuna sovavim moto hamitgael al chayot hakodesh v'nedar b'chavod al hamerkava zechut u'mishor lifnei chiso Chesed v'rachamim lifnei chevodo tovim me'orot shebara Eloheinu yitzaram b'dat b'vinov haskel koach ugvura natan bahem liot moshlim b'kerev tevel Meleim zib umafikim noga noezivam bechol haolam smechim b'tzeitam v'sasim b'vawam Osim be'ema ritzon konam pe'er v'chavod notnim lishmo Tahala verina lezecher malachuto kara lashemesh vayizrach or ra'avehitin tzurat halavana shevach notnim lo kol tzeva marom tiferet ugdula srafim ve'ofanim V'chayot HaKodesh Shevach nonim lo Kol tzeva marom Tiferet ugedula Srafim ve'ofanim V'chayot HaKodesh. We're on 109, continuing in the creation blessing, and then on to 110. Le'al asher Shabbat mikol ha'ma'asim. Page 110, end of the top paragraph. V'chulam pochim et pihem b'kedusha v'tahara v'shira v'zimra u'mvarachim v'shabachim u'farim u'maritzim u'makdishim u'mamlichim et shem ha'el ha'melech ha'gadol ha'gibor v'norah kadoshu v'chulam mekablim alehem malchut shamayim zeh mizeh v'nonim reshut zeh lazeh Lakdish liotram ben nachat ruach, v'safa v'rura v'nima kedosha, kulam ki echad, onim v'yomerim be'yira, kadosh, 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 Adonai tzivot, meloch ha'aretz kevodo, v'ofanim v'chayot ha'kodesh, v'ra'ash gadol, minasim liumat serafim, Liumatam mishabachim ve'omrim Baruch kivod Adonai mimekamo. 110, we'll do the bottom paragraph in the English. To praiseworthy God, they sweetly sing in song, they celebrate the living, enduring God. For God is unique, doing mighty deeds, creating new life, championing justice, sowing righteousness, reaping victory, bringing healing. Awesome in praise, sovereign of wonders, God in God's goodness renews creation day after day. So sang the psalmist. Praise the creator of great lights, for God's love endures forever. Cause a new light to illumine Zion. May we all soon share a portion of its radiance. Praise to you, Adonai, creator of lights. Baruch atah Adonai, yotzer hameorot. 111, silently Hebrew or English, God's love represented by giving us the Torah. V'avinu l'shalom me'arba kanfot haaretz v'tolichenu komiet li'artzenu ki el po yishuat ata v'navacharta mikolam b'lashon v'kerabtanu l'shimcha gadol sela be'emet l'hodot lecha u'liachercha b'ahava baruch atah Adonai habocher be'amo Yisrael b'ahava. 112 we're on for Hebrew or English, Shema, and then V'ahavta from Deuteronomy chapter 6. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, v'chol levavcha, v'chol nafshecha, u'v'chol me'odecha, V'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinatam levanecha v'dibarta v'shivtecha b'veitecha ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לוט על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך, ובשעריך. Continue soundly in the bottom paragraph on 112. We'll do the top of 113 aloud. We're on 113. We'll do the top paragraph in the English if you follow the custom. Have a talit, kiss the tzitzit when we come to the word fringes. Adonai said to Moses, instruct the people of Israel that in every generation they shall put tzitzit on the corners of their garments and bind a thread of blue on the tzitzit, the fringe on each corner. Look upon these tzitzit and you'll be reminded of all the mitzvot of Adonai and fulfill them. Not be seduced by your heart or led astray by your eyes. Then you will remember and observe all my mitzvot and be holy before your God. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I, Adonai, am your God, who is truth. Adonai Elohechem emet. Ledavodo kayam ushmo kayam, v'chiso nachon, u'malchuto v'emunato, lad kayamet. Udevarav chayim v'kayamim. Emet shaton Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu, Malkeinu melech avotenu, golenu grel avotenu, yotzreinu tzur yeshuatenu, podenu umatzilenu me'olam shemecha, ein Elohim zulatecha. 114, Ezrat avotenu atahu me'olam. Middle of 114, we'll pick up the chant Hebrew transliteration with Mi Chamocha. Mi Chamocha bo'elim Adonai, Mi Chamocha nedar ba'kodesh, Norat tehilot hosef ele, Shira charasha shibechu ge'ulim l'shimchal sfatayam, Yachad kulam oduvim lichu v'yamru, Adonai imloch leolam va'ed, Tzur Yisrael, Kuma be'ezrat Yisrael, Ufedei chinumecha, Yehuda ve'Yisrael, Go aleinu Adonai, Tzivot Shemo, Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael. Turning over to 115a, ready to begin chanting the Amidah, Avot, ancestors, and our connection enables us to talk to God during the Amidah. B, God's loving powers, his kindness that fulfills so many different aspects of living a healthy and full life. And finally, last two lines, Kedusha, God's holiness, that special quality that gives life meaning. 115a. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Ha'el, Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot, Umevi Goel Livnei V'neihem, L'man Shemo B'Yahava, Melech Chozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayim Eitim atah Rav le'Hoshia, Mashiv HaRuach, Umorid HaGashem, Mechalkel Chayim b'Chesed, Mechayim Eitim b'Rachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim b'Rofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem emunato lishene afar michamelcha bala givurot umidom melech meimit umechayeh umatzmeach Yeshua v'neman atala chayot metim Baruch atah Adonai mechaye hametim Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh u'kadoshim b'chol yom yalu chasela Baruch atah Adonai ha'el ha'kadosh. Continue silently now for a few moments with your own personal reflections and prayers, or alternatively, if you like the words of the Amidah, Hebrew English 117 through 120. Yismach Moshe Menachelko. Osa shalom bimromav, huya asa shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Ya asa shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, asa shalom. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, v'ala kol Yisrael. So you would normally have two Torahs this Shabbat. The first is Leviticus chapter 1 is what we're going to be reading from. The Parsha is Vaykira. Second Torah from Deuteronomy. We read about the Amalekites and the commandment to wipe out their memory. And finally, we'll have a special Haftarah this morning for Shabbat Zachor from the book of Samuel about Saul defeating the Amalekites. So chapter 1, beginning of the book of Vaykira, 585. Notice in the first word, there's a tiny aleph, different explanations. Give three quickly. A, aleph is there to remind us not to connect Vayikra'el, and they're two separate words. So the small aleph is a reminder that aleph is not the beginning of the next word. Scribal note. Second, much more preferable, if you didn't have that aleph, you'd have Vayikar, and Moses happenstance chanced to meet with God, and God spoke to him. And that's not the case. So Vayikra, God calls to Moses, is powerful. Third, the aleph is for Moses' humility. Moses, God calls him. Moses is the most humble of all men. And I add, this aleph is silent, right? Aleph makes no sound for most of us in the way we pronounce Hebrew. And therefore, famous midrashim, we hear God in silence, not just in the theophany of Sinai or the music of the service. Maybe the silence in between the music and the words of the service is where we really can hear God really well. So 585 or Leviticus verse 1, first 9 verses. Vayikra el Moshe vaydaber Adonai elav me'ohel moed lemor daber el bnei Yisrael v'amarta lehem Adam ki yakrif mikem korban l'Adonai mina v'ma mina bakaru mina tzom takriv et korbanchem imala korbano min habakar zachar tamim yakrivenu El petach moed yakriv oto lirtzano lifnei Adonai v'samach yado al rosh ha'olah v'nirtzalo lechaper alav v'shachad ben abakar lifnei Adonai v'ikrivu v'nei Aaron ha'kohanim et adam v'zarku et adam al mizbeach saviv asher petach moed v'shit et ha'olah v'nitach ota lintacheha v'natnu v'nei Aaron ha'kohen eish al hamizbeach Baruchu etzim al ha'esh. Ve'archu b'nei Aaron ha'kohanim al et etanitachim et harosh v'et ha'pader al etzim asher al ha'esh asher al ha'mizbeach v'kirbo krav yirchatz b'mayim v'ktir kohen et ha'kol v'ktir ha'mizbeach et ha'kol ha'mizbecha olai sherach nichoach l'Adonai. Stopped her up for this morning, as mentioned before, is from 1 Samuel chapter 15 and deals with the command from Samuel, who is commanded by God to tell Saul to defeat the Amalekites. He does so, does not fully fulfill what was commanded, which put everything to Cherem, to either slaughter or to dedicate everything to God. And Saul fails to do so. The best of the flocks are taken by the military. He keeps Agag alive to set a precedent, perhaps, that kings should not be killed. Of course, he's going to be killed in battle himself later. But Samuel comes and the kingship is taken away from Saul in this section, and instead passed on to King David, who will shortly be anointed in the book of Samuel. And here we have, obviously, though, the defeat of the Amalekites is what is important here, that the command of Deuteronomy is implemented during the time of the kings of Israel. So I'm going to take a couple of lines from toward the end of the Haftarah, actually not the very end, but about 3/4 of the way through. And we shall pick up at verse 13 in chapter 15. We'll go through verse 23. So we'll do 10 verses from the Haftarah. 1283, 1283 in Eitz Chaim, the Red Chumash, or first book of Samuel, chapter 15, verse 13. Vayavo Shmuel el Shaul vayomer lo Shaul baruch ata l'Adonai hakimoti et devar Adonai vayomer Shmuel umeh kol hatzon hazeh be'aznai kol habakar asher anochi shomea vayomer Shaul me'amaleki havi asher chamalam al meitav hatzon v'abakar l'man zevach l'Adonai Elohecha v'yet hayoter hecheramnu. Vayomer Shmuel el Shaul heref yagida lecha et asher diber Adonai elai halayla vayomer lo daber vayomer Shmuel halo im katon ata beinecha rosh shiftei Yisrael ata v'yim shachacha Adonai lamelech al Yisrael vayishalachacha Adonai badarech vayomer lefarachamta hacharamta et achatayim et Amalek v'nilcham tavo ad kalotam otam lama lo shamata b'kol Adonai v'atal el hashalom v'tasara b'nei Adonai v'yomer Shaul el Shmuel asher shamati b'kol Adonai v'elech v'derech asher shalachani Adonai v'avi et Agag melech Amalek et Amalek hecharamti v'yokacha me'ashalal Tonavakar Reshit HaCherem Lizboach L'Nalecha B'Gilgal Vayomer Shmuel Hachafetz Al Adonai V'Lo Zevachim Kishmoa B'Kol Adonai Hine Shemoa Mizevach Tov Lakshiv Mechelel Elim Ki Chatat Kesem Meri Ve'Avenu Terafim Ha'Haftzar Yan Ma'asta Devar Adonai Vayimasachami Melech Vayomer Shaul El Shmuel Chatati Ki Avarti et Adonai V'et Devarecha Ki Yareti et Ha'am Vashma Bekolam Ata Sana et Chatati Shuvi Mi V'shtecha Vel Adonai Vayomer Shmuel El Shaul Lo Ashuv Imach Ki Masta Devar Adonai Vayimasacha Adonai Yom Melech Al Yisrael. Mishaberach at this time. prayer for the sick. Do the traditional blessing today. If you need the prayer book, the words from the prayer book, it's on 144. Misha berach avotenu avotaf Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, hu yivarech v'yarpeh kol hacholim. We'll take names at this point in time. Those who need God's blessing of healing, the love and support of community. HaKadosh Baruch Hu yimalei racham aleihem lachazikam ulefuotam yishlach lahem meher refuah shemin hashamayim refuat hanefesh refuat haguv toch shar Yisrael Shabbat himi lizok urefuah kravo lavo hashla ba'agala of zman karib ben omar amen. The Holy One mercifully restore them to health and to vigor, grant them physical and spiritual well-being. Yet we hope and pray that healing will soon be at hand. And again, we can say, Amen. Short Devar Torah thought for this morning. Take it from Devorah Weisberg. Deal here in the Torah portion with animal sacrifice. What are we trying to accomplish, our ancestors, through this sacrifice? Basically, trying to reach beyond the known to communicate with the unknown, with the divine. In Hebrew, the word is not sacrifice. If we look at the genealogy and connotation of the word, lekarev, or is to draw close. Karov is the root. And therefore, these different forms of sacrifice are the means that our ancestors used to reconnect or connect with God. Voluntary offerings provided individuals the freedom to initiate and to deepen their sense of connection to the source of all life and meaning. The different kind of offerings represent different expressions of this quest. A burnt offering, which is what we read in the Torah portion, which we just selected a few minutes ago, was wholly burnt up on the altar, symbolizing and concretizing desire to give oneself completely, fully to the divine. Other offerings were burnt on the altar and partially consumed by the priests or by the individual, connecting them to God through a shared meal to express thanks or sadness for sin. So what are the lessons we can take from this section and from the sacrifices throughout the book of Leviticus? First, the makeup of the offerings. Some require animals, others a mixture of flour, grain, oil, and incense. Israelite offerings, therefore, include things in both their natural state and things that have been processed by human beings. A relationship with God can be mediated through the natural world and also through the work of our hands. We can experience God through the beauty of nature, but also through our own acts of production and creativity. Second, while the offerings were presented by the priests, every Israelite could bring offerings on their own. In chapter 1, verse 2, it says, Nefesh ki yavi korban, a human being, but perhaps better to translate as a soul, a life, a being. And so every individual can offer their own life to God through a burnt offering that includes men and well as women. And finally, sacrifice offers a concrete avenue for relating to an unseen and knowable flow of the universe. We understandably view prayer as a more civilized way of connecting to the divine rather than killing an animal. I agree with that completely. However, when we let go of our discomfort of what's going on with the sacrifices, we can acknowledge the power that it held for our ancestors and which we lack today, the power, the beauty, the visceral and captivating ritual of giving something that you possess and having it consumed into the life and given to God. When an individual is overcome by guilt or shame, they're able to experience a deeply restorative sense of relief by placing their hands on an animal, seeing its blood on the altar, and knowing that this ritual expressed their own expiation for sin. Just as we derive satisfaction from giving a gift to someone who has helped us, a person who felt profound gratitude to God derives satisfaction from giving God something tangible. While I pray we will never return to animal sacrifices to connect with God, the opening chapters of our book ask us to consider what it means to strive to connect with the divine, how we imbue our religious experience with power, with meaning, and with holiness. Prayer for the community, top of 148 in the Siddur. the blessings of heaven, kindness and compassion, long life, ample sustenance, well-being, and healthy children and grandchildren be granted to all the members of our community. May the sovereign of the universe bless you, adding to your days and your years. Be spared all distress and disease. May our protector in heaven be your help at all times. And let us say, Amen. Next up will be our concluding prayers. 182 will be next for Enki Eloheinu. 182. Ein Keloheinu, ein Kadonenu, ein Kemalkeinu, ein Kemoshienu, Micheloheinu, Michadonenu, Michemalkeinu, Michemoshienu, Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Malkeinu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, Atahu Shiktiru, Avotenu, Lefanecha, Et Ketoret Hasamim. Wrong one. 83 next for Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latent gedula liyotzer bereshit, shelo asanu kagoye haratzot, velo samanu kemishbechot adama, shelo sama chalkenu kohem, Vegar aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech malachei hamelachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Kakatu b'torah techadonayim loch le'olam va'ed v'ne'emar v'haya Adonai l'melech ala kol haaretz v'yom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. Next will be Mourner's Kaddish on 184. This week, Charlie Smith Life Communities. Remember the yard sites of John E. Dick, Sarah Fanaroff, Arnold Greenberg, Leopold Mountner, Rebecca Galblum, Samuel Sinrod, Abraham Hutt, Charles Lewis, Joseph Spund, Mary Sokolsky-Frager, Jacob Schaffer, Miriam Smith, Clara Sobel, and Samuel Shear. We'll join now in 184 in Kaddish Yatom. Those in mourning or observing Yortzeit will skip line 4 since we don't have a minion present to do the full Kedusha of Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah v'alma divrach yirute v'yamlich malchute v'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayed dechol beit Yisrael Ba'agala uvizman kariv v'yemro. Amen. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata damiran v'yalma v'yemru. Amen. Yehe Shalama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chayim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'yimru. Amen. Oseh Shalom B'imromav Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'yimru. Amen. So this week we celebrate the holiday of Purim on Wednesday night, the 16th. From what I can see of the calendar and different different buildings within the Charlie Smith Life Communities, There will be different Megillah readings in many of the different facilities, probably around 7, 8 o'clock in the evening for partial or full Megillah. Please check within your own facility as to the schedule and what's also being streamed into the rooms for those who desire. So a happy holiday of Purim this upcoming week, and we'll keep recording as we go forward. So we're on page 187 now, conclude with Adon Olam. Adon Olam Asher Molach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Li'et Na'asa V'cheptzo Kol Azai Melech Shimon Nikra V'yachare Kichlo Takol Levado Yimloch Nora V'hu Haya V'hu Hove V'hu Yihya B'tif Ara V'hu Echad V'yein Sheni Laham Shilo Lahachbira V'li Reshit V'li Tachlit V'lo Ha'oz V'ha'misra V'hu Eli V'chai Goali V'tzor Chevali V'yet Sara V'hu Nisi Umanosli Menat Kosi B'yom Mekra V'yado Afkid Ruchi V'yet Ishan V'a'ira V'im Ruchi Giviati Adonai Li V'lo Ira. Good morning, good Shabbos, after Shabbat, have a good Vacha Shavua Tov, and during the upcoming week, have a happy Purim, Mo'adim L'Simcha, and for now, Shabbat Shalom.